The Bitcoin Effect is proud to be part of the Bitcoin Spot, a collection of podcasts and forums on Twitter Spaces where you can participate in the conversation with some of the most knowledgeable names in Bitcoin. Visit thebitcoinspot.net for a glimpse of our lineup. And I've noticed, Log, that our lineup is a little bit different looking because it looks as though we're kind of put something together for January because we're kind of in flux for the holidays.
Yes, right now, this week and next, we're schedule is just kind of based on people's availability. So it's a little bit ad hoc, and we'll go back to something more regular when people's schedules are more regular.
Well, I know that, this week has been such chaos for me because, I've had to, I had to watch my grandson, and that's not a big deal except for the fact that when you don't plan time for something and you plan on doing writing or preparation for a show and you're like, oh, shoot, this is like 2 hours. I'm not going to be able to do anything. He's 3. It's not as though I can just kind of leave him alone. And so I'm like, he's either watching TV or he's running somewhere. And the worry is that he just starts running for no apparent reason. And he never warns you. He just kind of goes. And so there's that. And then also on Sunday evening, the brakes went out on my car, and it's like, gosh, this is another 3 hours I'm going to have to deal with. And it's just been welcome to Christmas because everything is totally chaotic. Your schedule is being changed, and things go out on your vehicles, and your schedule is just not your own. And it just feels like it happens more to me during Christmas than any other time. So this it's just
you're not the only one.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, we might have a short show today only because I'm like, I got one topic instead of 2 or 3 like I'm generally ready for. So basically it's just like, all right, you guys get to know who Nate Martin is because I'm just kind of let my hair down and go, this is who I am, and this is what I'm like. We are going to talk about Bitcoin and one specific thing that's been trending on Twitter, but I just kind of wanted to enjoy what this season is. So I'm going to do something because it's my show, and bear with me if you want to. If not, I understand. Go do what you need to do. But we're going to enjoy a little bit of Christmas while we're here. Merry Christmas! I'm Nate Martin, and this is the Bitcoin Effect.
Christmas is coming, the snowflakes will be falling, it's the most wonderful time of year.
That is Christmas is Coming by the Delegates, available on artlist.io. One license for all the royalty-free music you need for all of your podcasts and videos on all of your content platforms. Hey, leave me a DM at BTC Effect to get 2 months for free with your annual subscription at artlist.io. Merry Christmas, everybody. Like I said, it's been a crazy week with the shopping and breaks out on a car, but I wanted to just kind of reflect on what the holiday means to me. Like I said, let my hair down and let me be me so that you can kind of get to know me, because all we've ever talked about is Bitcoin. And, you see me on either 99 Bitcoins or here on the Bitcoin Effect, and it's like, okay, he reads a teleprompter for a living, and that's what I do. And, I prepare shows and I try to speak intelligently about Bitcoin and politics and how that all works. But, who am I really? And, that's a reasonable question. And maybe, if you don't want to know me, that's fine. A lot of people don't. And it's, I've kind of gotten used to that. And I've kind of calloused that way, but I'm okay. But let me just kind of share this with you. I wrote this a couple of years ago, and I think it still rings true for people this Christmas holiday season, or for any gift-giving holiday. Because as Christmas approaches, I realize my life is changing because my wife is still trying to be the major gift giver for the family's kids, and I got to tell her to stop. That's the parents' job now. Christmas morning, it used to be when our kids would wake us up to make the annual monkey bread and cheesy sausage. And then Kim and I would sit bleary-eyed back with our coffee as they tore into the gifts that we had finished wrapping about 3 hours prior, which is why we needed coffee. But those years are a memory for us now. We still enjoy our coffee, but now we sit waiting for our kids to arrive with their already sugared-up children, wondering if we could possibly fill in the holes in their Christmas list that Santa might have missed. My wife has lamented before that, She doesn't know what to get for me or my son Dustin, both of us, being adults, because our wants are so specific. And she says, I just want you guys to know how much I love you. The thing is, though, is that Kimmy shows me every day how much she loves me. We've got a great relationship. Our marriage and our relationship with our 2 grown children is something that we thank God for every day. We're noticing, however, that the family relationship that we have is becoming more and more unique, which is what makes Christmas in today's culture such an awkward time. Because many of us see the family holiday get-together as a chore or a yearly assignment as opposed to an event that we anticipate. Families now have to decide when to meet, where to congregate, how much to spend on each family member, or worse, the dreaded drawing names for one person in the family for whom to buy gifts. I love to get gifts from my family, and I see it, and what happens is I see something that reminds me of something that my daughter likes or of a conversation that my son and I had that was deep and revealing, and that thing that I saw suddenly has a story attached to it that I get to share with that loved one. And that's where I think memories are kept. And usually it's not during Christmas time. See, it happens throughout the year. And some of you might be thinking, well, you know what, just get the gift and then give it to them on Christmas. I can't do that. Because the passion of that moment when the item sparked that memory for me, it just has to be shared with that person as soon as I can. I can't wait till Christmas. Because the item never is really the gift. The gift is always the memory. The gift is always the love in that memory. The item is a standing stone of remembrance for both the giver and the recipient of a fond memory shared. The reason I hate Christmas shopping is because we have been entered into this rat race that begins on what used to be Black Friday, now it begins on Halloween, and runs through Christmas Eve. And that race is a hunt. We're hunting to find an item to spark fond memories of people that we really don't know well enough to have had that kind of moment with. So if no story goes with the item that you wrap and just kind of throw under the tree for that person, then that transaction of giving, it feels empty. And we depend on the item itself to bring satisfaction to the recipient. Hey, do you like it? Yeah, that's kind of lame. Instead, when someone opens a gift from me and they're puzzled by its meaning, see, then I get to unwrap the memory of the moment and paint the item with the story right in front of them. Then I look for the spark of the memory of the moment in their eyes too, and that's when the transaction of giving really has meaning. So this Christmas, I hope that you make memories. Then, if sometime in May you walk by an item that reminds you of a fond memory that was created on Christmas Day, get it. Then give it to them as soon as you can and paint the present with the colors of the memory. Then it will belong to both of you. I'm Nate Martin. Merry Christmas from the Bitcoin Effect. If you're listening to a replay of this episode on the Bitcoin Effect on YouTube or Spotify or other podcast server, thanks for joining us, and consider leaving a comment or review saying you'd like to hear more of what we're doing here. It helps us out a lot and also helps others who don't know much about Bitcoin to discover the program. If you want to join the conversation, make sure to join me every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on Twitter Spaces. Visit thebitcoinspot.net and click the link to follow at the Bitcoin Spot and watch for the link in your feed. So much drama. Oh my gosh, there's so much drama. And what's trending on Twitter right now is, and I'm not disagreeing with it, it's just that people get all up in arms about the hashtag #GetOnZero. And I can see where some people would do well to go ahead and do that because they either have a business or they've got revenue or income enough to the point where they can actually make those moves financially to where they can have $0 in their checking account and be able to pay with credit cards and have all of their savings in Bitcoin. I get that. But what about the people that are just coming in, or people that still work for a living and have to pay their bills, day by day and try to squeeze as many sats into their stack as they can? It's just, and as I look down the Twitter down this hashtag, and seeing people getting blocked, or people complaining about the #GetOnZero people, or people complaining about the people that are complaining about the people that are #GetOnZero. How do we get out of the drama? How do we back up a minute and recognize that people are not in the same place that you are? I heard one content creator say, and I've held on to this for a couple of years now, say, don't compare your beginning to somebody else's middle. And I think that's very good advice, And also, don't compare your middle to somebody else's beginning, because you can't very well expect somebody who's not in your situation to be able to do the things that you do with your money. Log, I'm going to call on you first and see, what do you feel about this?
Well, it's interesting because when I really got into Bitcoin Twitter and Spaces, it was in May. It was right after the market crashed. And the standard advice from just about everybody, as I remember, the Bitcoiners, was don't buy more Bitcoin than you can afford to lose. Don't put any money into Bitcoin that you need for the next 4 years. And a few months later, this get on zero thing starts. And all of a sudden, in some people's minds, it becomes a requirement to be a Bitcoin maximalist. And I'm with you. Everybody's financial situation is different, right? It depends on what your income situation is like. It depends on whether you have dependents, how old you are. And so I think it's a really personal decision what percentage of your savings that you have in Bitcoin. But I just I'm a little taken aback by the stridency of some of the Get on Zero people when nobody was saying that a few months back. And I think it's just because the market has changed. And that's not really a good reason to change your principles.
We have someone whose username is Satoshi Nakamoto. He's requested to talk up here. I'm going to give this a second. I'm going to add you as a speaker. But yeah, and this isn't the first thing that we've had drama about, and maybe write it up to alpha males just kind of fighting in the locker room or what have you. But unfortunately, it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because you want the atmosphere of the Bitcoiner community to be welcoming and somewhere that actually engenders education and mentoring. And maybe that's just me, but that's just my personality, and that's why I have a show like I have. And Satoshi, you're connected. Did you want to weigh in on this?
Well, I just wanted a little bit of clarification around get on zero. Meaning, does it mean like get out of Fiat, hold zero Fiat? Is that where they're coming from here?
Yeah, that's exactly where they're coming from. Basically, it's a matter of store zero fiat in a checking or savings account. All of your monetary value should be stored in Bitcoin, and that's a great ideal. But for somebody who doesn't have, basically they're trying to live paycheck to paycheck and squeeze out their stack as best as they can. When you have a downturn in the market like you've had over the last 6 weeks, suddenly not only is inflation hitting you, but also so's the market. And that's just something that we have to deal with on a regular basis. We know long term that Bitcoin is going to continue to go up because of number go up technology. But in the meantime, if you've thrown everything that you had, which was your Christmas money in November, at a $69,000 Bitcoin, and suddenly you're going to have to leak out a little bit because your car breaks down or because plumbing in your house messes up, then you've taken a loss in two different ways, with the inflation and also with the downturn.
Yeah, I mean, I would weigh in a little bit on this and just say that from my perspective, at this point, it looks impossible to get on zero from a business perspective because of the volatility. But I think ultimately everyone would like to get on zero, but I think it's going to take a bit more time than just now.
I think from an individual perspective, it's easier than you're right. I think that from a business perspective, it makes it difficult because you've got a number of things that are working against you in the fiat system. One is getting a loan. I mean, yeah, you can get a loan, you can get a Bitcoin loan, but why would you take one out? We've already had this discussion over the last couple of weeks. But being an individual and is easier than doing it from a business perspective, at least in the United States, because that's what I know. Wicked, you wanted to weigh in on this. What's going on?
Hey guys, how's it going? I guess I'm one of these people who's been talking about Get on Zero, and I've been kind of a proponent of it over the past month or so, at least on Twitter. So I personally have gotten on zero. So I I don't know. I mean, like you say, it works for some people, right? I mean, some people have the circumstances where it makes sense. Personally, for me, I'm in a circumstance where I can cover my expenses with my cash flow, and so each week, after covering those expenses, I can then put everything else into Bitcoin and have a zero balance on my checking account. So the other thing that's probably important to mention here is that getting on zero means different things for different people. So there's some people
I was
out
going to ask
there.
you that. What is the definition, and does that change person to person?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna change depending on who you are, and you're gonna figure out different ways to work around some of the difficulties with being on zero. And so for me, being on zero literally just means having $0 in my checkings account, like having $0 in a bank account, basically. So I still use credit cards, okay, and I still work a fiat job and make fiat money, right? But as soon as that money lands in my bank account, I pay off my credit cards and I put the rest into Bitcoin straight away. So that's how I'm on zero.
So do you pay off the credit cards, or do you use some of the credit card balance actually to continue to have actually more Bitcoin, which would kind of be indirect leveraging?
Well, yeah. So I have, I have a ton of credit cards. Okay, I'm like a credit card junkie. I think I've got like 12 credit cards. So a few of those I have kind of ongoing balances with 0% APR, which I roll over to a few other ones just to kind of have always having a rolling credit. And so those ones I've used to just load up on Bitcoin, and then the other ones I use for like daily expenses, which I always pay off. I never actually pay any of like the crazy APR on credit cards. I would never do that.
Which leads me to another decision that some people are making, especially now with Chairman Powell saying that rates are going to go up in 22 and 23. And that is this: do you refinance your house and utilize the equity to buy Bitcoin? Yeah, that's a tough question because for some, because it seems easy to me in one regard because I'm in that position where I could actually do that. And do I refinance the house and then, as opposed to DC, it's basically reverse DCA, where basically instead of DCAing a few $100s a month to build up the stack, basically you buy the stack with a refi and then take exactly the same few $100s a month that you planned on DCAing anyway, and you already have the Bitcoin in place. Anybody have an opinion on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm considering the same thing actually. It's not my home; it's my wife's home, so so it's a little bit more complicated in my circumstance. But yeah, I think that right now is probably a pretty good time to do that if you're considering doing it. And also, I mean, like you said, it's kind of a reverse DCA, and what you're doing is you're getting basically you're ensuring that your average price is the price now, and you're forward projecting that however long your refi is. So like if you're doing a 30-year refinance, I mean, hell, being able to pay 50 grand per Bitcoin for the next 30 years, that's a pretty good deal. So I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty sweet to me.
Yeah, that like you said, pretty much you're buying all of the Bitcoin at 50 grand, and the DCA pretty much so the 50 grand stays the same minus whatever 3.5% you're paying in interest in fiat, which, let's face it, should be easier to get because you should be getting more money year over year as an employee because you should be getting raises. Now, granted, those raises are not keeping up with inflation, so you're actually not improving your lifestyle or ability to stack sats. So therein lies the question too: what kind of a financial situation are we looking at over the next 30 years that might you know, worst case scenario, lose your house, So that's obviously that's the one thing that you got to keep in mind in leveraging indirectly, like I'm talking about, is, what's actually going to happen, because nobody knows. Nobody knows. And that's why, it's obviously still a risky question.
Yep. I would agree. With that, and no risk, no reward. But when you're risking your house, there's, you got to think really carefully about what you're going to do there.
You do. And I suppose there's always the opportunity to rent, but that's something that I don't ever want to consider again. So, Wicked, one last thing before I go to Tao. Christmas plans, Christmas traditions. What do you got?
Yeah, so my wife and I, we live in Boston. This is where her family's from. So this year we're staying here. Every other year we fly back to where my family's from, which is Minnesota. So we just go back and forth. But this year, staying in Boston, having Christmas at our place, inviting all the aunts and uncles and cousins. That is if we all test negative for COVID, because we all got it last weekend. So here we are, holding our breath, hoping that everything turns out. We're all doing well, though. We're all basically recovered at this point.
Good. I was say don't hold your breath.
Just want to be safe.
Keep breathing deeply. Don't hold your breath. Keep breathing deeply. So enjoy the holiday. Tao, welcome in. How you doing, buddy?
Hey Nate, thanks for the mic. I'm not sure if I misheard, but did you say to refinance when the interest rate goes up?
No, beforehand. Now that we have the news, they've thrown the flag up saying, "Hey, this is gonna happen." So I got to think that that the banks and credit unions are flying off the handle with applications for refis right now, while the rates are still low.
Okay, yeah, no. So my opinion about all that, yeah, definitely. If you refinance when it's low, and I think that's definitely a possibility. I personally would not do anything where, if it doesn't jeopardize anything with your home, and that you're still able to pay off things like that, then that's fine, right? I'm never in the boat about risking a house, because I just think it provides stability. It's kind of like a thing for a family, and where it's not like something you bet on. You use your money, put it up for, I don't know, a lien or whatever they call it, where you put it up to get equity, right, as collateral, and then to buy Bitcoin, things like that. As much as I'm a bull with Bitcoin, I think a home has so much meaning to family and the security sort of thing for people, and especially if you have kids, that definitely don't do anything like that. I'd rather suggest people to work hard in other ways to obtain more fiat to get Bitcoin. So that's just my opinion.
No, and that's solid advice to anybody, even though none of what we hear today should be considered as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only, just to throw that caveat out there. Tao, Christmas or any other holiday, and what traditions might you have for the season?
Yeah, Christmas is a very, very important time of the year. I think regardless of people's religion, things like that, I think Christmas it just has this happy vibe with everybody. It doesn't matter what religion and things like that. People still celebrate Christmas. Different countries, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It's just I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to be at home, have a beautiful Christmas tree put up. Actually, probably last month I already had it put up, and just enjoying time with family, and just hang out with a few friends here and there. And that's it. Yep.
Fantastic. I hope you enjoy the holiday. John, welcome into the Bitcoin Effect.
Hi. Sorry. Talking to me. Talking to me. Yeah.
So we had Satoshi Nakamoto here just a little while ago. Now we have John Nash, and there are people who believe that John Nash is Satoshi Nakamoto.
And there's a good reason for that. It seems pretty clear to me that Nash was Satoshi.
So, John, what is your opinion of this Get On Zero hashtag that has been trending on Twitter?
I've not seen that. What does it mean? Zero hashtag?
The hashtag
explain it to me.
Get On Zero is effectively a movement of a number of Bitcoiners that is encouraging a lot more people to literally have zero fiat in savings or to utilize fiat as much as they can and have all of their monetary value in Bitcoin.
Right. What? So I kind of just picked up a. So you mean like max out credit cards and remortgage your house and go into Bitcoin?
I think that's actually get on negative. Now you're talking about the sailor approach. I think we're actually talking about utilize. I think Wicked, you were talking about, and correct me if I'm wrong. You were talking about utilizing credit cards to pay your regular bills, and then pay off the credit cards with the fiat that you're getting with your employment or with your business. But leaving a bare minimum in your checking account because there's no need to have it there if you have the opportunity to save your value in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I can see the sense in that. I've kind of followed that strategy, I suppose, myself over the last kind of. I first got into Bitcoin about 2015, and I've kind of followed that strategy, but you kind of just have to be wary about your kind of cash flow. Because whilst over the longer term, Bitcoin does kind of win out, it does fluctuate in terms of when you think it's going to double in price, say 1 month, it might half in price. Over the long kind of term, it does win out. But yeah, I can understand why people would say that and think that's a good idea. But you kind of just have to be a little bit kind of wary about the short-term effects, I suppose.
For those of us in the ordinary, again, not financial advice, but, kind of my thought process in this is it's still reasonable to have what I would ballpark $2,000 just to be able to pay for those things that happen, plumbing, car repair, the things that you just don't expect. Only because you don't know, one, when that's going to happen, and two, when the market's going to dip. And that would be a reasonable cushion that I would consider. Well, not necessarily get on zero, but to recognize, look, things are going to happen. I think we've determined two things. One, this John is not the inventor of Bitcoin because he got into it in 2015 by his own admission. But two, John, let me ask you this: what Christmas or holiday traditions do you and your family enjoy?
Drinking and eating.
Just on holidays, or do you do that on other days as well?
I do it most days. Doesn't need to be, yeah. So.
Well, it was great to have you up on the program. Wicked, you wanted to chime in again on something. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I wanted, just talking a little bit more about the topic, get on zero. I wanted to say, one thing that really changed over the past year, even, and kind of made this movement more reasonable or more possible, is some of the platforms that we've gotten recently, like Strike, where the fees and the ease of use is just a light year ahead of everything else. So like Strike to me made this so much easier, so much more feasible, because we're talking about going back and forth, and I think even when you take into account like the spread, it's like 20 to 30 basis points or something. So having all of your monetary value in Bitcoin, even if you do have that unforeseen circumstance and you need to get back into cash to pay for something, it's never been easier to go back and forth. It's never been cheaper in terms of like an exchange fee. And I think overall, in the long term, having all of your monetary wealth in Bitcoin will net you more Satoshis. So even if you have to sell some along the way to pay for things, the Satoshis that you sell will more often than not be in profit. And by definition, being in profit means you have more monetary wealth.
More purchasing power, basically, is what you're saying.
More purchasing power, right. And so so some people, they'll be quick to point out, you'll have to pay capital gains tax on those Satoshis you sell. And yes, that is true. So in your example, let's say you usually keep $2,000 in the bank account, but let's say instead you put that $2,000 in Bitcoin and now it's worth $2,100, right? So you're going to have to pay cap gains tax on that $100 extra. So maybe, I don't know, let's just say 30%, right? You're still going to net $70 worth of, Satoshis, extra Satoshis than if you had just kept 2,000 in your bank account.
You bring up a great point, Wicked, and I wish more people would recognize this. If you know what, I want a tax problem. Because if I have to pay more in taxes, that means I made more money. Okay. If you have to pay taxes, that means you made money. If I have to pay more in taxes, well, then by definition, that should mean that I made more money, unless I was stupid in preparing my taxes and not recognizing what advantages what benefits I could take advantage of because of the tax code. But, everybody's going, well, they don't want to pay capital gains tax. Well, if you pay capital gains tax, then you still have more purchasing power than when you put the money in. I don't understand what the problem is here. That's a mindset that escapes me.
So I guess the only problem, though, and to kind of circle back to where we started, is this strategy is dangerous for people who maybe are living paycheck to paycheck or who are living above their means. So by that I mean people who are spending more than they're making with their cash flow. I think that in those circumstances, you may end up with fewer Satoshis. Well, you will, because you're spending them, obviously. But you kind of get yourself cornered sometimes. For example, if you're putting next month's rent into Bitcoin and that's all you have, and you're hoping that it doubles so that you can, walk away with a month's rent worth of Bitcoin and your next month's rent paid off, then that's dangerous, because if it does go down, and not more often than not, but sometimes it does, right? More often than not, it goes up, but sometimes it goes down. Then you're going to be sweating.
Yeah, let me kind of clarify this mathematically, because if someone is on zero, but their excess per month is only, say, 4% of their total income. Okay, so they're putting 4% of their total income into Bitcoin, and that's how they're stacking sats. And that's perfectly understandable. Now, what happens in mid-November of this year is you have an unplanned for expense that costs 20 to 25% of what your monthly income would be. Well, then whatever sats that you had stacked in November are not going to be in profit. The rest of it's going to be in profit. But, you're taking a little bit of a hit because you're going to end up having to sell those sats in order to cover that expense. But that's where some people are. Some people only have 2, 3, or 4% of their total income that they're able to save. And then when they have an expense like I'm talking about, well, then they're gonna have to liquidate that asset in order to be able to pay those bills.
Yeah, that's right. And it's also important to realize mathematically that, those types of situations will happen. They will. It's just life. But it's more often going to happen that you're going to, maybe have to liquidate a little bit of your stash, and that part will be in profit. It's also important to realize, at least from my understanding, or in my experience, that when you're doing your taxes, you write off your losses. So anything you lose from a tax perspective, you can write off from things that you're gaining. So if you're writing off some losses because you had to sell a little bit of your stack in November, you write that off with some of your gains from selling a little bit of your stack in February, right? So from a tax perspective, to me, it's kind of a lose-lose. I mean, a win. Sorry. Oh my God, a win-win. Can't believe I said that.
No, it's okay. No, and I get what you said, and I agree with that, because there are going to come points in time as you're stacking that you're going to take a hit. Now, obviously, we worry about those black swan events where Bitcoin goes down, 40 and 50%, which, in my speculation, utter speculation, because I literally just talk in a microphone for a living, is not going to happen nearly as often, because you have a tremendously more institutional buyers that want those cheap sats. which didn't happen back in 2017. So I think that a 20 to 30% correction, those are understandable and I think to be expected. But I don't think you're going to. I don't want to say it out loud because then it's going to happen. I shouldn't believe in the jinx thing, but sometimes you just go, the price is going to go down because I just upped my DCA type of a thing. It's just stop talking that way. But go ahead.
I worry about the black swan event where it doubles or triples.
Oh yeah, because you don't have enough.
I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I don't want to have any cash in my account because I just don't want to risk it.
If you look at the kind of all-time chart of what Bitcoin's done since when was the first block mine? Was it January 2009?
Oh,
if you look at the price comparison from what a dollar would buy for a Bitcoin, it's quite interesting how it long tails in the Pareto kind of accepted definition of like a power tail or a long tail. And if you want to look at it like that, then yeah, if you over the short term it might kind of fluctuate, but over the longer term, so the last coin will be mined in 21,040 or thereabouts.
Yeah, 2140. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you want to draw you want to go into the kind of Pareto definition of what's efficient or what's value, and you look at the long tail effect, it's pretty clear. And it's only been in existence for 10 years. But then on the other hand, Bitcoin almost came out of nowhere. Where did it come from? I mean, you can go into game theory, etc. But if you get really involved with it, you can kind of see that, it's like it's the value of it is almost determined or it's been predetermined by design. But then on the other hand, it's like, can we really be sure what's going to happen to it next month, next week? But I'd say it's a pretty, you're talking about, I'd say it's a pretty safe bet as a long-term saving mechanism until something else comes along that's better. And if something else was to come along that was better, it would follow kind of the design axioms that are behind Bitcoin. And that's kind of why I run my Twitter bot, like Game Theory John Nash. It is my sincere belief that Nash was Satoshi. I could point you in several reasons why I think that's true. And it really goes into the kind of design axioms of kind of what makes Bitcoin. So for a start off, Bitcoin demonstrates characteristic functions of Pareto efficiency. It's also symmetric. And you get into kind of game theory ideas of extensive form games and the Merkle tree idea as to how kind of the mining works and how the probability distribution as to how blocks are kind of broadcast on a network. And yeah, what's also interesting I don't want to kind of speak too much longer, but you guys talk about this idea of fiat as if Bitcoin isn't fiat. Bitcoin is fiat. Like fiat money is something that's backed by a physical commodity like gold or silver. Like Bitcoin's not backed by anything. All Bitcoin's backed by is the probability of its network broadcasting transactions and miners accepting those transactions as real. I don't know what you think to that.
Let me just reiterate what you said, because we might just have this discussion. But you're saying that Bitcoin is a fiat? Is that the assertion that you
definitely
made?
So if you go into the classic definition of what fiat is, it's okay. So there's different definitions of it, and some people might say that fiat is money backed by the state, but then other economists will say fiat is money that's backed by a physical commodity. So Bitcoin doesn't have any physical backing. You can't exchange. Some people might say it's backed by energy, but it's not. Even Satoshi said, we've had this discussion, it's not backed by energy. Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. It's a probability system. It's game theory. And so Bitcoin is, in my opinion, Bitcoin is fiat.
I think that in my estimation, well, in my semantics, and we may just be arguing semantics here, I think that fiat has its value because a governing entity deems that the only way that you can stay free for another year is to pay taxes in the form of that coupon. That's what fiat is.
Yeah, well, it may be or maybe not. I'm not sure where you're getting that definition from. I know Doringo's just joined the call, and I know Doringo and he knows me, and that's not an accepted definition of what fiat is.
But fiat by definition, if you take a look at the language, at the translation, it means by decree, and decree means, lawful order, which requires a governing entity to be in order.
See, some of the definitions would say fiat is money that's backed by a physical commodity, i.e., it's exchangeable for gold or silver or some sort of commodity.
Well, then it's not fiat. Then it's a certificate for redemption. That's those two totally different things. Fiat is not backed by anything. 1971, that determined that the dollar wasn't backed by anything. You can't redeem it for gold. You can't redeem it for silver. Its only value is to be able to pay taxes with it. So I think that you're confusing the difference, John. I think you're confusing the difference between fiat and monetary premium, because gold, 80% of its value is monetary premium, which you would call fiat, which it's not. The monetary premium, because people agree that it's money, that's 80% of its value. Only 20% of its value is utilitarian. So
what's Bitcoin backed by then?
Bitcoin, it's not. But what I'm saying is that's monetary premium, because its value proposition is its decentralization, its fungibility, its inability to be counterfeited. And, amongst the other benefits of what Bitcoin is, it defines what a very good, sound money is. That's not fiat. Okay, that's monetary premium. But that monetary premium continues to grow the more and more the network of people that choose to utilize it as money grows. That's not fiat. That's community free market based monetary premium. Fiat is by decree, meaning that the value of that money is determined by how much you actually have to give to the government in taxes with it. That's what gives it its value, is your freedom, because that's the only thing that it's really good for by and by.
I think that's where maybe we kind of digress then. But I just thought I'd make that point. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe we'll leave it there, yeah?
Okay, that's reasonable. No, I enjoyed the discussion. I appreciate your bantering about that with me. So
yeah. All right, thanks.
So good time. So getting back to, if anybody else wants to talk about get on zero, or even talk about what Bitcoin is and what the difference between fiat and monetary premium is, I'm ready to have that discussion. 33, you are requested. You are about to get connected. We'll wait, and then you'll come up and we'll have a conversation.
So while we're waiting, and while this siren goes
nice
by,
job, Wicked. That was awesome timing.
I was wondering if Bitcoin becomes fully monetized and kind of becomes the go-to currency globally, is the idea that it will suck all of the monetary premium out of everything else?
That is one theory, not one with which I agree yet. It's going to take some people to convince me that that's actually going to happen. The reason I say that is because the temptation of governing bodies to cushion the blow of a depression or of an unexpected occurrence, much like a pandemic, the temptation to either create or continue a fiat system in order for its citizenry to think it's had had a softer landing because of it is too great. And until such a time as everybody in the world, which that can never happen, agrees that that should never happen, then we're still going to be fighting that fight.
But at least all the monetary premium of gold, right?
I think so. I think most of the monetary premium of gold, I think that there are going to still be, I mean, the commodities market in gold, for my money, is still a commodity because it's something that's has utility value. you're still going to have premiums there because of weather, because of shortages, because of the ebbs and flows of the market. But that's not monetary premium. So I think in that regard, as I'm talking about it, yeah, you're right. I think monetary premium is going to go toward Bitcoin in the large 90% of value. It's real estate and other. There are other things that are stores of value that are still physical, that are still going to have a monetary premium. I even call equity in a house monetary premium because that's a store of value that isn't necessarily the living quarters themselves, but the value of time available to be lived in for whoever purchases that.
Let me challenge you a little bit on whether fiat will continue to exist simply because authorities want it to continue to exist. So you say that government needs to be able to create money in the event of a depression. So
I'm not saying they have to. I'm saying that the temptation to try to placate its citizens is going to be so great, and knowing that that it's been used before, they might punt or pull the parachute and do that. Yeah.
So they send out the money, and the people go to buy food, and the merchants say, we only accept Bitcoin. Now what?
That's something that can be done. It can't be done right now because fiat money, like I said, by definition, legal tender, you have to accept, or you're supposed to have to accept that monetary denomination within the borders of that nation. So, for me, I'd rather just take Bitcoin as far as that's concerned. But, whether or not that's going to be legally available for citizens to have that happen, that's a question for another day, because now we're speculating what the future is going to look like. 33, you've been waiting for quite some time. Yeah, you have something to add in?
Hi, thanks. I'm a little bit more basic on all this than you guys, but just about you talking about gold being the backing of the fiat system. Are people themselves not the units of account for Bitcoin? Are they not the value system?
Expound a little bit more. I'm not quite understanding the question.
I'm being quite literal. Like the people, the consensus, the involvement of the humans behind Bitcoin, they are the real value system behind Bitcoin.
That is what creates monetary premium that I was talking about before. The bigger the network of people that agree to utilize a specific thing as money, then the higher the monetary premium is going to be for that thing, if it is a thing. Like I said, gold is a dead rock, much like what Michael Saylor said. But the reason that it has monetary premium is because it's hard to get. It can't be, it can be. And now that we know that tungsten actually has the same density as gold, but it's hard to get out of the ground. And so there's not much of it. And so a lot of people agreed that has monetary value. And that's what we do with Bitcoin. The only thing that Bitcoin has is a monetary premium. But the reason that people are willing to expend money and energy in the form of electricity in order to create it is because they think that the monetary premium that they're going to get from it with that electricity is going to be greater than the cost of the electricity. And as long as that's still the case, then we still have a monetary system in Bitcoin that is extremely powerful. But that's the only thing that Bitcoin has. You say it's people, I call it monetary premium. You can call it whatever you want to, but I think
this idea of monetary premium is actually a really interesting one, especially in regards to gold, right? Because you kind of wonder, like, okay, what does that even mean? Like, what does it mean to have value locked up in monetary premium? And what it means is that there's gold in vaults that are just sitting there storing value. That's what that means. So for gold to lose its monetary premium, I think what literally needs to happen is the gold needs to be sold in those vaults, for Bitcoin, maybe, right? Like, or for something, right? Like for gold to lose its monetary premium, there needs to be kind of an exchange of that value in some regard. Right?
I don't agree with that, because Wicked, I think it's already happening. Because you take a look at the fact that gold has not repriced over the last number of years while Bitcoin has continued to escalate as far as its value is concerned. It's because more and more people are voting and choosing Bitcoin as a better store of value than they're choosing gold. That's simply
right.
So going back to 33's
people are
thing.
selling their gold, right?
Yes.
I mean, I sold my gold
Yeah, and
for Bitcoin.
exactly, and for the reasons that I think that we talked about earlier, because it doesn't have as much monetary premium because more and more people are voting away from gold, lowering its value, and voting toward Bitcoin, raising its.
I
Do we
mean,
need to even refer to a monetary premium going forwards? Is this not part of the fiat mindset itself?
I don't understand what you're saying about the fiat mindset, John.
In the way that Jeff Booth kind of talks about how difficult it is for us to think outside of the system.
Yeah, it's difficult for us to think outside of the system for a number of reasons. One, because the real estate market and the banking industry has made it extremely difficult to get a loan without actually having the history of income in dollar valuation. That only adds to the problem. I don't know whether, to be honest with you, that is one book yet, Price of Tomorrow, that I've not yet read. So that's on my stack, and it's part of the pages that I have yet to read. But because the fiat system is upheld by what you could call the plutocracy or the government of whatever kind, because they have to defend its value militarily and diplomatically, as well as by making it so that the citizens can continue to produce and hold and enjoy some of the value that they have produced. That's the tightrope that they walk because they want more power, but they recognize that there's a level of power that has to stay within the citizenry's hand in order for them to continue to be motivated to produce.
Satoshi was clearly a gold nut. I mean, talking about gold here a lot. Like the fact that Bitcoin mining is called mining, as in mining something. And this is kind of where we get into the idea of the difficulty adjustment mechanism. So the difference between Bitcoin and gold is more kind of gold can be mined through kind of technological advances. But with Bitcoin mining, no matter how popular it is or unpopular it is, it has a difficulty adjustment mechanism that keeps the supply rate steady and constant.
No, and I agree because that is the basic difference between Bitcoin and gold as far as the stock to flow is concerned is that if the more and more gold miners you have, the more and more gold that you're going to have per day that's being mined and influxed into the economy. Whereas it doesn't matter how many miners are going to get into the Bitcoin economy, you're only going to have, as it stands right now, 900 per day that's actually going to be contributed into the Bitcoin economy. So in that regard, I totally agree with you. Sak, you have been waiting very patiently to add your 2 cents worth in here. Go ahead and do that.
Is it my turn?
It is your turn, and I'm so sorry it took so long to get to your turn, but it is your turn now.
No worries at all. Thanks for bringing me on. Great conversation. So I have a few points to add. So I think of it, besides the number go up technology and the mechanics and everything behind, I think of it as a vote against anything that can happen in the future to us from flawed government policies. So it's like a vote against Cantillon effect. So it's not just an insurance like against inflation, but it's also the storage of our energy. So we say that it's backed by energy, but I think it's backed by our own energy that we put into it. So we could say that it's backed by people's energy and it's a peaceful vote. So we don't have to go and fight and have debts, to get something positive out for the future. And when you're down in your savings in SATs and Bitcoin against fiat, think of it like when you vote for elections and it takes some time for the result to come out. You don't know the vote count for each elected president that's going to get elected. Sorry, my English is not that good. There's up and down in the vote count, and then you're waiting for the result to come out, hoping that it's going to be your own result, the one that you want, whether it's true or not. So think of it like that, and the time frame for us is much bigger. So the vote count for an election is going to take couple of days, depends. But for us, it's going to take 5 years, and within those years, we're going to get more votes for what we believe. And humans are really nice people deep down. We don't want to hurt each other. We all want the same thing. We want the freedom, and the more time passes, more people will join. And usually, like, what happens is that everybody who gets into this Bitcoin world, they don't know the things that we discuss right now. And this is what Spaces allows, and education and the internet and everything. So usually it's like, the media and then friends, and they tell you, and then you go and gamble and you go and leverage and you get wrecked. Well, like a lot of us have been there, with alt and stuff, but you're actually not voting there. You're doing other stuff. The real vote is actually when you withdraw the Bitcoin. So it's because that's when you actually have Bitcoin. And I think that the big risk, like if we don't get this on a standard where governments have no option to get on board, I think there's a race right now. They're trying to outpace adoption of Bitcoin somehow. I don't know how they can do that.
What do you mean by outpace?
So, okay, think of it like that. I think a lot of like geopolitics, and I'm reading a lot, and we know that China, they have a way to be more productive because they have more surveillance, totalitarianism, all these bad things that are happening to the world, and we know that. And their people they have to work to get bread because they're gonna die, and they work as much as they can to get as much bread as they can. But on our world, it's not that we're slacking, but we're a bit more free to get around, get more holidays, decide how we want to spend our money, decide how much we want to invest. There's no limit for us to how much we can transfer from Europe to USA, or from USA to, I don't know, another continent. So they have those restrictions and we don't. And I think that at the end of the day, they know that this is a race that they are ahead because they have this communism, and we cannot become, communist world. They know that, but through like doing these CBDCs in the future, by trying to outpace from promoting fear and everything, they try to somehow secretly outpace the growth of Bitcoin. I know they can't because we're still allowed to buy. I don't know when that's going to end. If this such policy goes ahead, I know there's going to be votes against it. That's why we have good and not so good politicians. So yeah, it's a vote. It's a vote for freedom, and don't go down the rabbit hole like the miners and they can drag us. It's like this network has been running for so many years. We haven't seen anything wrong with it, and we just see these technologies also come out. Which is normal because VCs, like, they want to make money and they're going to do everything they can.
You bring up a point, and we've come up with this analogy, this parallel that in order to affect a monetary premium with whatever money that we choose, whatever the community chooses, and what we want to do is continue to increase the number of people within that community because then our value remains stored. I don't agree that when you withdraw Bitcoin is when it gives it value. Because you can withdraw Bitcoin, but if nobody takes it for payment, then you don't have anything. You have to have to have that network of people that are willing to take Bitcoin as a payment for a good or service in order for it to have value. That's where the network comes in. That's where the people come in. The people having value, which is what somebody else, and forgive me, I forget which contributor actually talked about that. But as more and more people recognize that this is something that is a good money because it defines money well, fungibility, decentralization, yada yada, all those other things that we've talked about. Then that's where the monetary premium comes in, and we can all agree that this is good money. So, and in making that point, I forgot the second point that I wanted to make, but I appreciate your coming on and expressing your opinions on the matter. Quick question. Being at Christmas time, do you have any Christmas or holiday traditions that you share with your family?
Yeah, definitely. Like we make turkey, and we eat with family. We go out afterwards for drinks. Hopefully, the weather is not going to be that bad. I'm based in Europe, and yeah, just everybody is trying to stay healthy. That's the most important thing. Stay sane, and just be nice to each other, and that's everything.
Sounds fantastic. I hope you enjoy the holiday season. There is another speaker that is in queue who has what looks like a padlock as a name, and I looked at their handle, and it's just a bunch of numbers and letters, so I don't even know what to call you, but you are up next on the Bitcoin Effect.
Was that me from earlier?
Yeah, you're the one that I can't, I got nothing for the name. Go ahead.
Just the idea of kind of removing the layer of symbolism, with the idea of using gold and how it's detached from fiat. I was essentially making the point that we don't need to think like that anymore. Going forwards, we're very direct with this value system.
Okay. And I know I didn't ask you this question. Any holiday or Christmas traditions that you share with your family that you care to share?
Swim in the sea.
Oh, that's not even nice. That's just not even nice. I'm stuck up here in the Midwest. We clearly can't swim in the sea. Although we haven't had any snow yet, which I, knock on wood, because I'm certain that that's coming as well. But, we've been having 50 and 60 degree Fahrenheit days. For those of you who are in Europe, that's closer to probably 6 to 10 degrees Celsius. I'm actually surprised that I knew that. We Americans are horrible when it comes to the metric system. I have to realize I'm not just talking to people that are in the United States that recognize the Fahrenheit system. So I will try my best to speak to everyone in the audience. So bear with me as I do that. So it's been a fantastic conversation about things that I didn't really even plan on talking about. We talked about not only the Get on Zero trend that is on Twitter, and I think that we've kind of agreed that everybody has their own understanding or position that they're in as to whether or not or how quickly they can actually get on zero and have all of their monetary value in Bitcoin. We've talked about a monetary premium and how that actually occurs, and I think that we've agreed that it's about collecting is the wrong word. Wow, that's horrible. Gathering more and more people to the idea that Bitcoin is a sound money for the reason, because of the benefits that it offers. We've also talked about Christmas and your holidays and what those are going to look like. And my hope for everybody in this room is that they are going to enjoy Christmas and the upcoming New Year. I don't know what the show is going to look like next week. We might just do a year in review. But for everybody who contributed to the program, I want to thank you for joining me here for the Bitcoin Effect. Log Scale, I want to thank you for hosting. And if you're listening to a replay of the episode, hey, make sure you leave a review or a comment. Because that helps us out and that helps other people who don't know about Bitcoin discover these shows. Again, check out thebitcoinspot.net to check out what shows are upcoming, at least what the list of shows are. We've put together 60 plus hours of Bitcoin conversation per week. And that's going to be solidified in the January schedule, so keep a look out for that. Also, there's a resources page, and there's also places where you can buy different books and informational resources, as well as apparel. And there are referral links to where you can help the Bitcoin Spot out by supporting this network. It has been a pleasure. Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm Nate Martin, and this has been the Bitcoin Effect. Thank you.